Hello, I'm here for the rest of chapter 8. It's only a short one today. We did read quite a bit yesterday. I got a bit carried away, and I hope you really enjoyed having your little tour around Hogwarts for the first time. So I'll pick you up here after Harry had his point taken away from Snape for his cheek in potions lesson. Things didn't improve for the Gryffindors as the potions lesson continued. Snape put them all in pairs and set them mixing up a simple potion to cure boils. He swept round in his long black coat, watching them weigh dried nettles and crush snake fangs, criticising almost everyone except Malfoy, who he seemed to like. He was just telling everyone to look at the perfect way Malfoy had stewed his horned slugs. And when clouds of acrid green smoke and a loud hissing filled the dungeon, Neville had somehow managed to melt Seamus's cauldron into a twisted blob, and the potion was seeking across the stone floor, burning holes into people's shoes. Within seconds, the whole class was standing on their stools, while Neville, who'd been drenched in the potion when the cauldron collapsed, moaned in pain as angry red boils sprung up all over his arms and legs. "Idiot boy," snarled Snape, clearing the spilled potion away with one wave of his hand. "I suppose you added the porcupine quills before taking the cauldron off the fire?" Neville whimpered as the boils started to pop up all over his nose. "Take him to the hospital wing." Snape spat at Seamus. Then he rounded on Harry and Ron, who'd been working next to Neville. "You, Potter, why didn't you tell him not to add the quills? Thought he'd make you look good if you got it wrong, did you? That's another point you've lost from Gryffindor." That was so unfair that Harry opened his mouth to argue, but Ron kicked him under the cauldron. "Don't push it," he muttered. "I've heard Snape can turn very nasty." As they climbed the steps out of the dungeon an hour later, Harry's mind was racing and his spirits were low. He'd lost 2 points for Gryffindor in his very first week. Why did Snape hate him so much? "Cheer up," said Ron. "Snape's always taking points off Fred and George. Can I come and meet Hagrid with you?" At 2:55 they left the castle and made their way across the grounds. Hagrid lived in a small wooden house on the edge of the Forbidden Forest. A crossbow and a pair of galoshes were outside the front door. When Harry knocked, they heard a frantic scrabbling from inside and several booming barks. Then Hagrid's voice rang out, saying, "Back, Fang, back!" Hagrid's big hairy face appeared in the crack as he pulled the door open. "Hang on," he said. "Back, Fang!" He let them in, struggling to keep hold of the collar of an enormous black boarhound. There was only one room inside. Hams and pheasants were hanging from the ceiling. A copper kettle was boiling on the open fire, and in a corner stood a massive bed with a patchwork quilt over it. "Make yourselves at home," said Hagrid, letting go of Fang, who bounded straight at Harry and started licking his ears. Like Hagrid, Fang was clearly not as fierce as he looked. "This is Ron," Harry told Hagrid, who was pouring boiling water into a large teapot and putting rock cakes onto a plate. "Another Weasley, eh?" said Hagrid, glancing at Ron's freckles. "I spent half me life chasing your twin brothers away from the forest." The rock cakes almost broke their teeth, but Harry and Ron pretended to be enjoying them as they told Hagrid all about their first lessons. Fang rested his head on Harry's knee and drooled all over his robes. Harry and Ron were delighted to hear Hagrid call Filch that old git. "And as for that cat, Mrs. Norris, I'd like to introduce her to Fang sometime. Do you know, every time I go up to the school, she follows me everywhere. Can't get rid of her. Filch puts her up to it." Harry told Hagrid about Snape's lesson. Hagrid, like Ron, told Harry not to worry about it, that Snape liked hardly any of the students. "But he seemed to really hate me." "Rubbish," said Hagrid. "Why would he?" Yet Harry couldn't help thinking that Hagrid didn't quite meet his eyebrows when they said that. "How's your brother Charlie?" Hagrid asked Ron. "I liked him a lot. Great with animals." Harry wondered if Hagrid had changed the subject on purpose. While Ron told Hagrid about Charlie's work with dragons, Harry picked up a piece of paper that was lying on the table under the tea cosy. It was a cutting from the Daily Prophet. "Gringotts, break-in latest. Investigations continue into the break-in at Gringotts on 31st July, widely believed to be the work of dark wizards or witches unknown. Gringotts goblins today insisted that nothing had been taken. The vault that was searched had been, in fact, emptied the same day. But we're not telling you what was in there, so keep your noses out if you know what's good for you," said a Gringotts spokesgoblin this afternoon. Harry remembered Ron telling him on the train that someone had tried to rob Gringotts, but Ron hadn't mentioned the date. Hagrid, said Harry, the Gringotts break-in happened on my birthday. It might have been happening while we were there. There was no doubt about it. Hagrid definitely didn't meet Harry's eyes this time. He grunted and offered him another rock cake. Harry read the story again. The vault that was searched had in fact been emptied earlier that day. Hagrid had emptied the vault 713, if you could call it emptying, taking out that grubby little package. Had that been what the thieves were looking for? As Harry and Ron walked back to the castle for dinner, their pockets weighed down with rock cakes they'd been too polite to refuse. Harry thought that none of the lessons he'd had so far had given him as much to think about as tea with Hagrid. Had Hagrid collected the package just in time? And where was it now? And did Hagrid know something about Snape that he didn't want to tell Harry? Okay, so Chapter 9, The Midnight Duel, will be read to you by Miss Morton. So enjoy, and I'll see you again for Chapter 11. Bye-bye.